Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am one of your hosts for the evening, Aggie, and with me is the very awesome, rowdy Rick. How are you doing tonight, Rick?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. It's Friday. We're headed to the weekend. It's a long weekend for a lot of folks. So yeah, I don't know. It's been a week, so I'm just gonna try to stay in as good a spirits as I can while we talk about things that piss us off.
Yeah, it has been. It has been a pretty rough week, and I actually committed just one of my pet peeves just now, but we'll get into that. All of my pet peeves, a lot of them, tend to be grammatical. Yeah, and that's kind of weird coming from somebody who's speaking her second language, not her first. So
No, actually, I have noticed people that English is their second language take it a lot more serious than people where English is your first language. Because you guys are like, dude, I took the time to learn this shit. You're going to use it right. Just saying.
Oh, man. Yeah, Calvin, I'm so sorry. Not really. At least he gave me a twitchy.
She apologizes for nothing.
I apologize for nothing. I regret nothing, the end. And that's alluding to Calvin just posted a new Twitchy article where we pretty much made fun of these people who gathered to just sing the most atrocious chants. I don't know. I thought they were. Did they think they were at Woodstock, or I don't know. I don't know. I was trying to like, and they were all senior citizens, to put it kindly, because I'm heading in that direction too. So I'll be qualifying for my senior citizen discount at the local grocery store in about a year and a half. So I'm excited.
You're excited about that, huh?
But I already qualify at Denny's and IHOP, so there's that.
I was going to say,
yeah.
according to one of the ones that one of the cell phone companies that does the orange background, it's not Boost Mobile, it's the other one that's got Ted Danson in it. I already qualify for their senior plan because I'm over 50. So
yeah, my parents have that one. Actually, my mom now does have that, and she likes it. She's fine with it. She's just complaining about the phone. She wants a more simple phone. And I'm like, I can't help you with that. Technology and I don't get along.
Yeah, my dad is 73. We just officially drug him into the 21st century about 3 or 4 years ago. But unbeknownst to me, because my dad is a contrarian, he got an iPhone and then started asking me all kinds of questions about the iPhone. Speaking of pet peeves, just because I used to do tech support doesn't mean I want to do your tech support.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But yeah, so he gets an iPhone and then starts asking me all these questions about an iPhone. And I had an Android at the time. So I'm trying to look things up as best I can, find him screenshots and everything else. Eventually I just gave up and I bought an iPhone, and then I figured out how to work it. So that way when he calls me and says, "Can you help me figure out how to change the header image on my Facebook page?" Yes, give me a moment, Dad, and I will help you.
I do help my mom with her FB, and yeah, that was an uncomfortable conversation that I had to have with my mom, because she wanted to completely block one of her cuñadas. And she didn't know how to block that person, and I had to walk her through it. And then I had to get messages from that person. Why can't I see your mom's page? Yeah, about that. That was uncomfortable. I mended the situation, but so I told my mom, it's better if you just unfollow the person, and that way you still remain friends. You can still see their page if you want to. You just go to their name, and and that way the Hispanicity doesn't come out, because it was very dramatic when this happened. So yeah, that's another little pet peeve. Just a little one.
Fun
Not
times.
a big one. Not big enough to cause me aggravation. Because as we all know, I don't like my drama, but I love watching everybody else's. So that was okay.
Yeah. You like everybody else's drama. You just don't like having drama.
Yeah, not mine. I don't like drama. But I'll be watching yours.
Which kind of makes sense. A lot of people are that way. They don't like having drama of their own, but they don't mind watching everybody else's drama. That's why things like telenovelas and soap operas work so well.
Exactly.
Days has been on for, it'll be 61 years next year. So, because our telenovelas never die.
No, they just keep going. And I was very surprised that one of the characters that I remember from, I think, As the World Turns, and she was a teenager when I was a teenager, it's now a grandmother. I'm like, this is not funny. This has got to stop.
Just do what I do. Shake your fist and yell at the sky, "CERN," because it's all CERN's fault.
It's all CERN's fault. Yes, this is true. So anyway, well, I guess we should jump in. Thank you, Danielle. I don't think she's in the chat just yet, but when she comes in, everybody shout at her, because this was her idea. She gave me the idea about pet peeves last week, and I had no inspiration when we were talking this afternoon. And then I remembered, wait, Danielle told me. So I sent you, and you said, yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
So if
This
y'all
is her
want to
fault.
jump in with your pet peeves in chat, please feel free. That will be fun to talk about too, because it's your drama. I'm here for it. So there you go.
Nice. He said, she said, aka Drama Central.
I had briefly toyed with the idea of asking you for half an hour airtime at least twice a week so that I could just run through all of the gossip that was going on Twitter. Honest to God, that's all I was gonna do. I backed away from that.
I'm gonna say we already do 90 minutes here. I could just move into the producer's chair and you could do 30 minutes after this.
No, that's okay. Well, I'll talk about it later. But anyway, yes, tonight's show, thanks to Danielle, is about our pet peeves. And like I alluded, a lot of mine tend to be grammatical, and I was not aware how many.
An
But
anthropological
apparently,
grammar.
I do have a few.
I would like to point out that I'm currently speaking to an anthropological grammar Nazi.
I guess you could qualify me as that.
I was unaware there was such a creature, but apparently
Although
there
I
is.
do have an anthropological pet peeve. I do. And
course you
I'll talk about that one first because most people really would not understand it. But one of the things that I absolutely cannot stand in anthropology is it's basically if you're a Star Trek fan, it's the Prime Directive. Okay. Every single episode violates the Prime Directive somehow. All the time. Without that Prime Directive, we'd have no plot to any of the shows because it's the violation of the Prime Directive that writes the story. But in anthropology, we have something similar. It's basically we're supposed to be watching, not helping. We're not supposed to be doing anything to improve the quality of their life as to our standards. We're supposed to just watch and take notes, make friends, and learn their way of life. We cannot superimpose our way or any of our habits, any of our culture onto their lives at all. And of late, that has actually gone out the window. And for me, it's a really big pet peeve because you're no longer studying a group of people. You are now trying to improve that group of people to your standard of living. And that's an impossibility. Those people don't live in your neighborhood. They live in some place totally different. They have totally different set of rules. They have a totally different way of, gathering their food and finding their water or whatever, be it, like the Yanomamo out in the Amazon, or the Maasai tribe out in Kenya, anything like that. You cannot tell them, yeah, this is a better way of doing this. No, you got to leave it alone. As a matter of fact, there's a tribe. There's so little water out where they live that they actually wash all of their stuff with cow urine because technically it is a sterile liquid. And that's how they wash everything. And some of their plates are made from poop that has been, they put hay and everything and let it dry in the sun. That's what they have. And I was watching a show, honestly, about a couple of years ago, where the person that was interacting with them was telling them that there are ways to actually make better plates. And, there's ways to actually find water. It's fine and dandy. They've always known about how to find water. They just cannot, they don't want to move from that area. They know they can go to another area that has more water. They're well aware of that. But they are transfixed there because of either their cultural norms or there's a war going on. I mean, this is Africa, or there's hostilities in the area where the war is at. So they are prohibited by certain things. And I'm just watching that going, you can't do that. So to me, my biggest pet peeve in that discipline is how often they just decide that violation of the Prime Directive is the way to go. I've never, it just drives me crazy whenever I see it. I start screaming at the TV. I've been known to scream at the TV out of the blue. I actually scared my dad once. Last year when I stayed with him for a month, we were watching one of the shows and he's there in his, comfortable recliner. And I'm over here on the other side of the room and I'm watching this thing and I just, oh my gosh, I could feel my face getting red. And before I could stop myself, I started screaming at the TV and my dad was alarmed. He thought something was wrong. And I was like, sorry, Dad. And I explained to him what happened. And he was like, because he didn't study anthropology, you understand? He was not aware that what the guy was doing was horrifically wrong. And he thought that, no, the guy's just trying to help. I said, no, that's not your job. That's not the job of the guy. The guy is supposed to be there to make friends, to learn their ways, but not to teach them about our ways. We're not supposed to do that at all. And it has, the discipline has just been disappointing right now. I'm just going to put it that way.
So a couple of key points. One, on Enterprise, there really was no Prime Directive yet. They had a General Order 1, but it was kind of more of a suggestion because they hadn't been in space yet. Kirk lived in the Wild West of the Federation time, so he basically did whatever the hell he wanted to. Picard, they pretty much tried to follow the Prime Directive a lot, and then Cisco's like, fuck you, I'm part God, I do what I want.
No. I was specifically talking about Next Generation, and if you recall, Justice, I hated that episode for that reason. I cannot tell you how much I hated that episode because they had the chance to kill off Wesley and they passed it up. Moving on.
Well, I mean, come on. Well, I mean,
I'm not wrong. I am not wrong.
It's Wesley, but yeah, I think the only reason they tried so hard is because it was one of their people, not. Yeah, but yeah, no, we've talked about that before. That one that one was actually a direct violation of the Prime Directive. But.
Yes, it was, and that's why it kind of like that really rankled me because no, we're better than that, so we're just doing it our way, and I'm like, okay, so you just basically.
The thing about it is that entire episode. So this is one of my pet peeves, is writers that don't understand the things that they're writing about, because that annoys me. It happens all the time. Like on Days of Our Lives, show's been around 60 years. They bring in new writers, and all of a sudden they've got characters that would have been interacting with a certain group of people when they were running one type of establishment, going, "Oh, I remember when I was in this place and washing dishes when I was a kid." Motherfucker, you were sweeping floors in a fish market when you were a kid. So yeah, that is one of my pet peeves. And the thing that irritates me about that episode is if the Prime Directive was a thing and they actually followed it, they never should have set foot on that planet in the first place. That was not a warp-capable civilization.
Right. They shouldn't have been there.
It's not just the, they tried to save Crusher. It's the fact that they never should have made contact with them in the first place, because they weren't a warp-capable civilization.
Yeah. So that is just a small. I mean, I took it from Star Trek, and yes, I know there was no Prime, but the Prime Directive kind of floats around. But the thing is, you're not supposed to interfere, and that is one thing that I have seen in my discipline happening a lot. And it's not just my discipline; it's a lot of the soft sciences like psychology and sociology. They've been doing the same thing. They have slid into that whole, we know what's better for you, so we're going to fix it for you. And I hate that. I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Calvin, we just did a 2-hour show last Saturday on quantum physics, and you're just now figuring out I'm a nerd. Bit slow, are we?
Nope, soft science is not a real science. That's why I call it a discipline as opposed to a science of any kind, but that they're referred to as the soft sciences. I call them the 5 sisters. That would be, let me see if I could recall correctly, psychology, sociology, anthropology, economics, and linguistics. I believe those are the 5, because they're very soft.
I said,
and everybody's like, economics, but that's a math. No, it's not.
For the record bit, I said Cal, not bit. So might want to rethink that sentence. Just kidding. Oh, so but yeah, no, I mean that is actually one of my big pet peeves. Is shows that have been established for a long time,
Mhm.
quit screwing them up. I mean, it's one thing when it's like, when something moves from like franchise to franchise to franchise, and it's been around as long as Star Trek, and there's been so many different iterations of it, you can't possibly expect them to keep up. But when it's one show, and there's and you can't do some research before you start writing for the show. Seriously,
Yeah. Just,
I mean,
just look. Just look. Just, I mean, you have the internet. You have Wikipedia even. Even scrolling through Wikipedia, you could get a gist of, you can get the gist of it. So,
a
um,
bit. That means you're probably in mine. Everyone's in the one for at KLR and radio, because if you can only see the ones in the window, then you're in mine, not the station one. So you should be able
yes.
to move over to that one, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, sometimes having multiple chats confuses people, but it helps with our numbers. So
So, but yeah, I know that's a silly pet peeve of mine, but it is something that has always grated on my nerve a little bit. What about you? You got any? I mean, you should.
oh,
I know you got plenty.
dude, I got plenty. So we already talked about my first one. Just because I do tech support doesn't mean I want to do your tech support, because I've done tech support a lot of my life after some of the other things that I've done. And that doesn't mean every time that something's broken, I want you calling me on the phone going, how do I fix this? How do I fix that? You have people that are attached to whatever devices that you are trying to figure out who get paid to help you figure that stuff out. Call them, not me. So that's one of them. My other one, and this is after doing customer service work on the phone from 2009 until 2023. Don't call me chewing. I hate you. Don't call me chewing. God.
Okay, for a second, I thought you meant don't call me Chewy, like
No,
Chewbacca. But
no,
no, you
don't
mean
call me while
chewing
chewing.
while chewing. Got it.
I should have added in. Sorry, I was distracted because I was going to make a joke to Danielle. One of my pet peeves is when people suggest show topics. Just kidding. It's not really. But I was waiting until she was here to use that one. So
Oh, I think Danielle's over on yours too. So, um,
possibly. I don't know. There's been some weird stuff going on with X, so it's possible that everybody may be in the right one, and then it still may not be showing up because, yeah, X has been weird for Restream the last few days. But no, I mean that's one of my biggest ones. If you're gonna take the time, and now look, if you're calling like a family member or something, I don't really care. But if you're calling a place of business and you need help with something, don't call me and start asking questions while you're trying to chew on your lunch, because sometimes I have a hard enough time understanding you people. I don't need to be trying to translate around your chewing noises too. Just so yeah, that's I hate that one. I hate that one.
oh no, there's a. I, I, I think that there should be like, well, there used to be telephone etiquette. That was
Yeah,
one of
that's
them,
not a thing anymore.
but like that's gone out the window because everybody has a phone, and how millennials, Gen Z, whatever. I don't know, but it used to be that we used to be taught telephone etiquette in high school. I know my teacher taught it. It was part of our English class because part of our English class was also on etiquette and how to properly greet a person that in the corporate in business or in a social setting and all that stuff, because you're using the language. So that was part of English. And I remember Miss Harwell saying, I think we spent like maybe half a week on phone etiquette because she really, really hated the fact that nobody had phone etiquette anymore. And so she actually spent the better part of a week telling us how to answer a phone, how to answer questions on the phone, how to not answer questions on the phone, because there are some things that you just don't want to divulge, right? How to not be have any kind of tics while you're on the phone. So chewing was one of her big pet peeves. I mean, that woman could not stand gum. She thought gum was like, the seventh seal had been broken, and that was the plague put upon us. Um, she could not stand people chewing anything at any time, but specifically gum. And if you're on the phone, you should be as still as possible when you're not speaking so that you can hear the other party speaking. And you should enunciate and you should do all these things. But yeah, she you would have loved her. She hated that too.
Oh, okay. Now MD put a parody in my head. The melody of mastication to the tune of Californication. I'm gonna have to figure this out. I'm gonna have to figure this out now. But anyway, no. So I mean, I don't know, and that is something that didn't used to bother me, but so another one, because yours are going to be much longer winded than mine because I don't have a lot of explanations behind mine, and you do usually. So another one, and this one is not anything to do with people. Another pet peeve of mine is having reached the age where my body hates me. That is a daily pet peeve for me.
Snap, crackle, pop.
Yeah, snap, crackle, pop. Can I get out of bed without throwing my back out? Are my legs going to work the way they're supposed to? Do I need to grab the cane today? Is it going to take me 30 minutes to get into my studio? Yeah, it's all like,
Okay, next time I call Ordy, I'm going to answer ahoy. Just letting you know that, Ordy. Ahoy. Okay.
I mean, I remember when there was a British dude I knew that used to answer the phone that way, but it wasn't just ahoy. Every time he answered the phone, it was ahoy hoy.
Yes.
And I'm like,
I don't know. I know who you're talking about. I just can't bring it up to mind. But yes, I remember.
What?
I think it was. Oh, and I don't know. Maybe it was in Hot Fuzz.
Maybe that's
one of the characters. One of the characters. Oh, hoy. It's like what? But okay. But yes. So anyway, let's see. For me, the one I committed at the beginning is a pet peeve, and I slipped into that, and I caught myself, and I slipped into it because you actually did it. It doesn't bother me if other people do it. It bothers me if I see it in writing. I'm just going to put that out there. I know it's weird, but when I was in school, again, the illustrious Miss Harwell really was a stickler for English grammatical rules. And I mean, when I say she was a stickler, that was probably one of the most difficult classes in English I ever had. And I went on to college and I had plenty of English classes there too. That was nothing compared to the hell that she put me through. But one of the things that really got on her nerves, there were two, and this is one of them. It so happened that our yearbook, she was my senior English teacher, by the way. Our yearbook had just been put out and everything, and the cover said, "It's never been done this way before." Stupid, I know. But for her, the grammatical rule of "it's" was "it is," not "it has." Has was not a contraction. Has was never part of the "it's" contraction. It's always been "it is." And so she was very adamant that we understood that that was an abomination. It is now accepted. It is now part of the English grammar, evolution, I guess. But for me, I'm still stuck there because this woman would threaten us with rulers on our knuckles. Okay. And she was not a nun, but she was a, spinster. But the thing was, she was adamant about this. And she drilled it into our heads that "it is" the contraction, not "it has." So whenever I see it in writing, "it's been," it drives me crazy. And if you know me, and some of you have gotten my letters, handwritten notes and everything, I've never actually done the contraction of it has. I will always write it out long form because for me, it's just a no. I get that times have changed. I get that it's accepted now, but in true form, composition, and grammar, the correct contraction is it is, not it has. So that has always, that's, people can say it and it doesn't bother me. I see it in writing and I want to set fire to it. It makes no sense.
Stained, Stained would like a word. The band Stained would like a word since one of their songs is titled "It's Been a While."
Yes, I know. And like I said, if I hear it, I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me. It's if I see it in writing, it drives me crazy. I think it's, that woman had an effect on a lot of people. And I'm living proof of it. I gotta say, I was very upset when she passed away. But yeah, and she now has a middle school named after her. So
you realize you just gave a very serious piece of ammunition to a chat full of people that love to troll people, right?
oh yes, I'm gonna get trolled.
I was just making sure you were
danger.
Aware.
But I mean, like I said, if I hear it, I'm fine. If I see it in writing, it's like, ugh. But I let it slide. I mean, it's like it's accepted.
You talk to all of these people on X, you're not going to see it in writing every single day, multiple times a day for at least
probably
the next.
I will get avalanched on it's been. And I'll be like, okay, meeting the thread.
Every morning, Aggie's good morning tweet is just going to be a gif of somebody's eyes twitching.
Well,
for like the next foreseeable few weeks.
That's another weird thing of mine. And maybe it's just me, maybe it's a lot of people, but I put the good morning tweet out there and the expectation is either people are going to laugh or people might be confused because they don't particularly see what's so funny or whatever. But the only expectation I have is for people to find it funny. Nobody ever is obligated to say good morning or greet me or, laugh or anything, but they do. And I find it very heartwarming that y'all take the time to actually do that. The ones that I don't understand is when they try to correct the meme. I'm like, I don't understand why are you wasting time correcting a meme? It's just supposed to be funny. I don't understand that.
I purvey the memes. I don't create them. By the way, your buddy M has just trolled you twice in like 5 minutes. Just so you know.
Yes. He's one of the funny ones. I knew he would. I'll admit it.
Well, so I learned something new Saturday night because he actually tuned in for Juxtaposition, which was very heavy in physics and quantum mechanics.
And that's his wheelhouse, I think.
Yeah, I somehow did not know that, and all of a sudden he's like, "This doesn't work for us real physicists." I'm like, "Wait a minute, did you just say you're a real physicist?"
Yes, he is.
So yeah, I learned something new Saturday night. Yes. We have a lot of smart people that listen to us, but then again, he mostly listens to you, which makes a lot more sense. So.
He's been a very long time follower. As a matter of fact, I remember when he had a previous account, and this is his second account, but he is extremely intelligent. And a lot of people ask me, it's like, why is he screaming at us? No, he's not. He just has problems with his eyesight. So that's why I use capital letters. And so a lot of us have actually gotten into the habit of writing back to him in capital letters. And, I'm starting to think maybe I should just write everything in capital letters too, because I can see him better too. I wouldn't have to wear my glasses anymore.
Oh, yeah. No, it was funny because one of the first times I think, because BZ, who's in the chat now, was interacting with him a couple of weeks ago. And I think it was one of the first times they'd ever interacted with each other. And he's like, "Why are you yelling?" I'm like, "Dude, he's not yelling."
He's not yelling. He's one of the good guys. I gotta say, M's one of the good guys. So
And then
Speaking of good guys, just in case some people in the chat are not aware of a good Twitter follower, good friend, passed away this past July. We just learned about it today. Gray Wolf, who was known to quite a lot of people, quite a lot of my followers. We had a lot of mutuals in common. We were bereft to hear of his passing. He was such a wonderful soul, and he will be greatly missed.
yeah, I have to be honest. The first post I saw about it was using his real name, and I had no idea who it was. And then I saw G's post, and I was like, "Damn it, I like that guy."
Yeah, he was. He was a sweetheart, and
He
also
was
just
he was another
our friend.
he was another one that was kind of like Ron. He was one of the first people that ever really started paying attention to us.
Yeah, he did. Also, along friend of the chat, JC lost his wife just this past week. So please keep him in your prayers and your thoughts, your cosmic karma, good vibes. But it has been a weird and hard week, and this is why we do this show, levity, so that people can just laugh at the absurdity of life.
Because there is an absurdity to life. Speaking of absurdity, my dad gave me my next pet peeve. My dad used to, when I was a kid, and sadly I have become my father, so that ties into my next pet peeve. You know that Progressive commercial where they talk about how you're turning into your parents? That was always a pet peeve of mine, and now I realize that I pretty much have. Down to the fact that we were actually standing next to each other in a restaurant the other day, and one of my son-in-laws was like, "God, y'all look alike." I'm like, "Shut up." But anyway, because my dad's been playing Santa Claus for my kids since forever. So the fact that I'm starting to look like I could carry the mantle now, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. But people who go out of their way to embarrass people on purpose in public just to make them like feel completely uncomfortable. My dad used to do that all the time. He would go out of his way. Like we'd be in a checkout line, and this is after my parents divorced. And keep in mind, I was 8 or 9 years old, which means my dad was 20. I was 8 or 9, which means my dad was either 29 or 30 because we're 21 years apart. And he's hitting on the 18, 19-year-old checkout girl and then asking me why I'm not getting her number.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go over here. I got nothing. I got nothing. Now, eventually, he is where I got most of my sarcasm from and my sense of humor from. But I still really go out of my way to try to not do things like that to my kids because that used to drive me insane.
No, I can. I definitely never did anything like that to my children. And if anything, there's two types when it comes to that. There's the people that do the uncomfortable forward, outward, and the people that do the uncomfortable inward. I'm the inward person. That's the self-deprecating humor. That is the inward uncomfortable. But the outward, I've never understood why anybody would do something like that. To me, that's just that you're actively trying to make someone else so uncomfortable that they really regret being there. They regret their existence there for that particular space, part of time. And it's hard. I've seen people do this. I've seen a lot of young people do this. And I've seen a lot of older white ladies do this.
See, I think Jeff may be related to my dad. I point out all the hot moms and daughters when I'm out with EP, sometimes loud enough for them to hear it too. Yeah. Pet peeve.
Yeah, I got nothing on that one, Jeff. Moving on. So, what other pet peeves do you have? I'm sure, like you said, you have plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I have like an entire list of pet peeves. Another thing that really drives me crazy is people that never let me know that they have plans for anything until the very last minute. And a lot of my family is terrible with that. And I think that's why it's really starting to get on my nerves. because I really used to be a go with the flow guy, but especially on, the half of the family that belongs to she who shall no longer be named, they have this really bad habit of, oh, we're doing a birthday party in a week, and then I get to that birthday party, and oh, by the way, we're doing this one next week. I'm like, you're doing what? Do you guys not compare notes for this stuff before you do back-to-back birthday parties? Because I'm always, everybody gets mad at me because I don't like to pick up a phone, because I don't like to talk on the phone. That's another pet peeve of mine. I have spent 20 years of my life talking on phones for a living in one form or another. I don't want to talk on a phone. If if you want to talk to me, it's easier to text me, and then if it turns into a long enough thing, then I will muster up the courage to call you for 10, 15 minutes, get that out of the way, then we can go back to texting. But for all these people that don't like the fact that I like to communicate in a very specific way, who don't communicate at all, mm, mm, mm.
I really get that. And one of the things that I cannot understand how this happened, because I was never trained as one, but I became the social secretary for the entire family. And I don't mean my family. I don't mean my kids and my husband. I mean my entire family. Somehow or other, I became this. They will send me messages and texts and reminders. They'll call and everything, and I have an actual social calendar for my family. I don't even live near them, okay? And yet I'm in charge of all this stuff. And now now they're asking me to go to Puerto Rico, and I'm like, I would rather have my nails clipped in a Cuisinart than go to Puerto Rico right now. I really would. First of all, this is hurricane season. You're not going to catch me in Puerto Rico during hurricane season. Why? Because for all the bluster, they still have not fixed much of what happened after Maria. And that was a long time ago. It's been years. Yeah, things are still bad. So yeah, I said specifically, yeah, no, I'm not going. But my mom wants to go, and so we're trying to figure out who's going to go. So I'm like, I have an entire, I don't know how this happened, but I actually have a social calendar, and I fill it out with everything, everybody's upcoming things, everybody's upcoming birthdays, who's getting baptized, who's getting, one of my nieces is having a root canal. That's actually in my social calendar. I'm like, I have nothing to do with this, but it's there. And I call my mom and I remind her of things, and everything. I'll remind my sisters and all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out how it is that I became this person. I don't understand it.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I'm the one that has to, and that's the other reason why I don't understand why half the time these people don't communicate these things to me, because I used to be the one that everybody was like, can you remember all this for us? And I'm like, sure, it's kind of what I do. But now it's like, never mind. But yeah, so this one's smaller on the list, but I want to know if I'm alone in this one, because am I the only one that hates it when, and I don't have to worry about it as much now because I don't have the big work email list like I used to have, other than for a couple of different places. But am I the only one that hates when everybody replies to every fucking work email using reply all?
No, you're not.
I hate that. I hate that.
I love the blind copy. I gotta say that is an excellent email thing that I really do enjoy. But the reply all, that drives me crazy, especially when I can understand it when it's used like for the family reunion, and you send out an email blast to everybody that's on there, and then everybody just automatically replies because they don't realize. So now your entire, you have 27 emails saying, yeah, I'm going, right? What should happen is that thing goes out with everybody's name on it, but the sender should say, please reply to this email only, whether or not you're coming. And that takes care of it. But yeah, I've never I mean, there's no reason. I'm sure that there are reasons for the reply all, but I've never found it to be necessary.
Well, so the weird thing is, like, within the same organization, I had certain bosses that hated reply all, and I had ones that would yell at you if you didn't use reply all. And him just pointed that out. He's like, I got in trouble for not replying all. And yeah, I've had bosses like that too. They just, and it was, I guess it was their way of showing participation because they could go back through the list without having to and just see who all had replied in one place or something, and it made their life easier. But God, that annoys me, especially on a busy day where you're like back to back on stuff and you've got projects and everything else you're trying to do, and your email is just dinging every 5 seconds because everybody's hitting reply all. Stop it.
No, and Calvin brings up a good one because that is another pet peeve of mine: group texts. I cannot stand group texts. I am a part of at least 5. Only one of them had my consent, and I don't know how I got tied into these. Oh, by the way, the one that got my consent was none of my relatives. These are just friends. So the rest are relatives. 2 of them are with are my sisters, and I'm like, why? Why do we have 2? We literally have one for the sisters. Why do we have another one for the sisters? And nobody could give me an explanation for that. And I said, well, can I leave one of them? And they're like, how could you be like that? I'm like, I don't need 2. I just have the one. and of course, some of my siblings have the Texas Aggie, group text. And I'm like, I support my team and everything, but I really don't know the players. I don't know whose strengths or what's, blah, blah, blah. I just enjoy watching the game. That's all. I don't need to dissect everything at the end of the game. And sadly, some of my siblings and their spouses do. And they get into it. And I'm like, why am I even in this? I just don't understand. And it drives me crazy because I understand the need for some group chats, but no, I don't particularly care for them. No. And I've tried. I've actually asked, may I leave this? That was my mistake. I asked if I could leave the conversation and everybody got offended. And I'm like, see, that's a you problem, not a me problem. That's why I want to leave the conversation. But nobody got happy about that. Anyway,
it's because you're the bubbly one. You have to stay in the conversations.
No, I'm the dad one. I'm the one that brings reality to the situation, and they don't like that. So I'm like, I'm trying to leave so that you don't have to deal with it. Why are you being like you are?
Nice. So yeah, another work related one. Can we go back to realizing that most of these video meetings that you guys are requiring that we go to could be handled via email? Please. I don't have an hour and a half of my day while Janie is figuring out why you can't hear her on the video call software and how it is that the person who's supposed to be running the video conference software doesn't understand how to make the video conference software work, and is just it finally gets everything to turn on, and all you can see are their feet because the camera's in the wrong place, and all you're hearing is rustling because the microphone's in the wrong place. This could have been done in an email in 10 minutes. For those, I would even settle for reply all.
Oh my goodness. Really?
Meetings that don't need to be meetings is another huge pet peeve for me. And I don't. And that was even the way it was even before when I was working for OU, even before we were working from home. They would call us into these meetings, and they would always do it on the days when either we weren't very busy, which is kind of when you want to be on the phones, or when I was working on other projects, so I wasn't on the phone anyway. And then they wanted me in a meeting to tell me an hour's worth of crap that they could have told me in 10 minutes. But never, when you're a phone monkey, give us, even if it's a couple of us at a time, give us some time off the phones when we're getting slammed. Then we wouldn't care about your meetings. But this whole, especially once we started working from home, and it was like this big thing of, once a week, we're going to have a meeting. where you have to be on camera, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, this could have been done via email instead of me sitting here for an hour.
It's amazing how I think people just get used to that whole social media vibe. So they have to be like online for this instead of an email. Or, sending a text, hey, I'm having issues with this or whatever. What do I do? I think that's where it comes from. I really do.
Yeah, no.
But
Well, Jeff, in one instance, these were IT people that couldn't figure it out. This was back when I worked for Convergys and was a team leader for the network media technical support team. I'm dealing with a bunch of people that literally do not only tech support but computer tech support for a living, and couldn't figure out why that stuff wasn't working when we had to do video conferences. Now, granted, back then it was still fairly new technology compared to what we have now, but these were also the same people that helped DirecTV through, testing out stuff, design their whole home stuff that they have now. But they couldn't figure out how to make video conferencing work. Color
that's funny.
confused.
Yeah, I've never done IT, and several of you have actually helped me with problems, but I've never felt the need that, like you need to, like, it could have been an email, it could have been a text. I don't see the need for a meeting to discuss my problem, just I don't see that.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, most things could be a text. I'm not one of these people because that's what I hear from people all the time. Well, sometimes text loses something in translation because you can't get the vibe from the people that you're texting with. If it's somebody that you've talked to for forever, you can pick up their vibe when you're texting. And if you can't, there's something wrong with you. Because I go through this with people all the time. Because they'll text and it'll be something completely out of character for them, and it's like one or two sentences, and I'm like, okay, so what's wrong? They're like, how the hell did you know something was wrong via text? Because you always say good morning or you say something very specific, and you didn't this time. So what's going on? And they're like, damn. But I mean, if it's somebody that you communicate with enough, you know when the vibe's off, or at least you should. So and so to me, that's always been like a cop out. And again, if there's somebody who's getting frustrated when I'm texting them, I will take the time to call them just so they can understand that you're probably reading something into this that isn't there. But 9 times out of 10, if you feel like I'm getting angry with you via text, you probably wouldn't want to talk to me. Because if I'm getting angry with you via text, it's not going to be any better over the phone. Just pointing that out.
So let's see. I had one and it completely lost. So I'm going to do my other grammatical one, which also was drilled into me by Miss Harwell. Rest her soul.
I think Miss Harwell might become one of my pet peeves by the end of the show.
There's only two, actually. And I'm sure I'll get bombarded on Twitter with this too. And thank you, mute button. But when people do quote, the reason is because, that is actually a violation of grammar rules right there. You either do the reason is that or this is because. You don't do the reason is because. It's one or the other. It has always been thus. It is accepted into our lexicon right now. It really is. But if you look into proper grammar rules and everything, it's still a no-no. Or at least it was last year when I looked it up. Things have changed. God knows Merriam-Webster is completely woke now anyway. So, and so is dictionary.com. But it used to be that was a grammar rule that should not be violated. It's either the reason is that blah, 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 or this is because that. So using both, you're kind of like just being redundant. But a lot of people say it. A lot of people do it. You see it in novels everywhere. Every single book that I have read, most contemporary ones that I've been reading, for Spirited Books. They have it in there somewhere. It's part of our lexicon now. It has seeped through and it has taken hold, and it's kind of like a limpet on the side of the boat. So, there's not much that you can do, but it is something that has always grated on when I see it. If people, like I said, if people say it, it doesn't, I'm fine with it. I don't care. But if I see it in writing, it's like, and it's because of that woman. That woman was just so strict when it came to grammar rules. And it was always something that we had to, we were writing down, we were reading it. It was in our grammar and composition book. And so because I see it in writing, it irks me. But, I let it slide because it is accepted. It is part of the lexicon now, like I said. And it's, it's fine. Like when I hear it, it's not a big deal. When I see it in writing, it's like Miss Harwell is like pinging that last nerve. She just needs to take a rest. Her spirit does anyway.
Yeah, well, I would kind of agree with that so far based on how the conversation's going. Anyway, she's come up a lot tonight, Aggie.
That's it. Those were the two that so.
Yeah, well, it may only be two pet peeves, but she's come up a lot while you've been discussing those pet peeves. So yeah, I think the poor old lady might hear that.
Calvin. I'm going to get even. I'm going to write you a letter all in cursive with a bunch of apostrophes, a bunch of contractions.
Nice. All right. So this one is something that bothers me, but doesn't really seem to bother a lot of folks. And it's returning the shopping cart to the cart stall, even when it doesn't get you a quarterback.
I agree. That is a big pet peeve of mine. People that leave the carts everywhere. And I can't stand that. I went to church on Sunday, and after church, I went grocery shopping. And after I put my groceries in the car, I gathered up 8 carts and took them back. And someone thought I was dressed really nice for working at the grocery store. I said, no, I just got out of church. I'm not working. I don't work here. And they said, you should.
Like,
and now I'm thinking, maybe I should.
Yeah, I'm a dude. I don't use a buggy. I honestly didn't used to, and now I wobble, so I kind of have to. But I'm just glad I'm not in one of the electrical ones. So,
no, that's a whole other can of worms for me. Because I understand that those are for people who have problems walking. But I see a lot of people that don't have the problem walking using them. And it irks me because somebody with a disability would have to wait for that cart to become available. And I mean, I saw this young woman. She looked like she could walk just fine. So, but I thought, well, maybe she has an issue and that's why she's riding it. She was not overweight. She was pretty much my size and she's riding this. So I thought, maybe there's something wrong with her leg. Maybe she just, she twinched it. Maybe she's got it braced up or something. But no, she was wearing sandals. I didn't see any, ace bandages or anything like that. So I just said, could be her knee. So I'm not going to judge or anything. And I'm about to check out and she is done checking out. So I watch her take the buggy out, take her stuff and run to her car. I was pissed. I was livid because that is not supposed to be used by people who are able-bodied to walk around Walmart or the grocery store or wherever they are at all. And she just did it because she was lazy. Just didn't want to walk through the store. And I'm like, yeah. This is why people don't like young people right now. It's because of this shit.
So the funny thing is when you were talking about how somebody was, asking you if you worked there, remember last week when I got a song in my head? That happened too, because all of a sudden it was like, yes, no, maybe, I don't know. Can you repeat the question? and then I look up. Then I look up and bits like, and I don't work here, and if I did, I would not help you. I'm like, hey, I could almost make that fit. Almost. I have to work on it a little bit.
It's just that it to me it's that's a pet peeve. And I will say this pet peeve, and a lot of you out there are former retired military and may have DV license plates. But one of the big pet peeves that I have, and it drives me crazy because my brother-in-law does this all the time. My brother-in-law has DV license plates. That means, the disabled veteran.
Yeah.
He parks in the handicapped space all the time. Well, because my sister has the same plates, she gets to do it too. And I'm like, you're not disabled. You can walk in and out of the store just fine. Now, if he is taking his mother, totally needs to park there because she is disabled. So, and he is one of her two caretakers. So I get that. But when he's alone and he does it too, drives me crazy. My sister doing it all the time drives me crazy. I'm like, why are you parked here? She's like, because I have the plates. And I'm like, that's not the way this works. I felt like I was that's not how any of this works in that gift.
That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
And I was looking at her going, you're able-bodied. You can walk in and out just fine. She's like, I don't have time for that. And she just dismissed me. And I'm like, this is such a big pet peeve for me. It really is. And it drives me crazy. And the weird thing is, my husband has those plates. And I tell him, absolutely not. You cannot park in the handicap space at all. Now, when he had surgery and he his ankle was in a boot and everything in it. Yeah, I let him, but I was not happy about it because I knew he could still walk, but I let him. And I'm very, and he knows, one of he's got Purple Heart plates as well. And it's a DV plate. And he says the only reason that he got those plates was that, he qualified for them. So he said, yeah, sure, whatever. Not thinking, and then one day he's like looking for parking spots, like, oh, I can park here. I said, no, you cannot. He was like, no, I cannot. And he just went around looking for the parking spot till one opened up. And he was like, but I have the plates. And I said, but that's not the point of that parking space. And this is something that I've had to tell a lot of my friends. Just because the Department of the Army and the Veterans Administration considers you disabled doesn't mean you are disabled enough to use those spaces. You got to use your brain too. You can't just because you have, oh, I have the plate, so I can park here. I'm like, no, there was one gal that actually went to court over this. She got a handicapped parking tag. This was while I was at Texas A&M. So she could park in the handicapped spaces because she had to go home and breastfeed her child. So she needed quick access to her car. And I was like, you've never heard of a breast pump? I mean, for real? Because her husband was working from home at the time. And this was before emails, before, the internet or anything like that. He actually worked from the house. He, did a lot of proofreading and stuff like that. So most of the work was at his house. And so he was I think, copy editor or something. And so she would go home to breastfeed and then go back to attend school. And this, people got upset. It's like, there's no reason why she should have that. It's like, oh, but I need it. And so it went to court, and the court sided with everybody else. They said, yeah, you can get a breast bump. And and your husband can feed the child.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but it's incredible to me that this is something that, you know, the whole issue for having a parking space for handicapped people is for people who have trouble, walking, or, one of the guys back home, he lost, back home. I say back home, back in San Antonio. Um, he's in my neighborhood, and he rides a truck, and it's lifted. He lost his legs in Afghanistan, and his license plate says no legs. I'm not even joking.
Oh, wow.
He's a great guy. He has he has he did not want a handicap specific license plate, but because of his disability, he had to get one. He didn't want to give up his truck, so he spent out of pocket to make sure that he could still drive that truck, and he could, it had a ramp that would come out, for his wheelchair and all that stuff and everything, because he loved that truck. But he felt that he could park all the way out there in the middle, where nobody parks, just fine. And he just didn't want to be considered handicap, So you have that flip side. And he was a great guy, don't get me wrong. But his wife said, honey, I need help too, with you, and with getting in and out of your truck because it's lifted. It's ridiculous. She had to have like a little step ladder thing come out of her side. But
Yeah.
there's some people that don't want to be known for their handicap, so they try to avoid it. And then you have the flip side, which is, oh, I got DV plates, I can park anywhere I want. I can park in the handicap zone. And I'm like, no, you can't. You cannot. Just because you need to have an actual physical handicap in order to park there. And
Excuse me. The correct term is handicapable.
but I mean, it drives me nuts when my sister does it. As a matter of fact, if she asks me to run an errand with her, I have to ask her straight out. It's like, do you plan on parking in the handicap zone? Yes or no? And I'll be that person. I'll make her uncomfortable in front of people because I feel very, very, this means a lot to me, obviously. And that is one of the few times where the uncomfortable goes outward. And so I put her in that position, and she actually kind of steps back and says, no, I'm not. I will park, because that I shouldn't be parking there. And I'm gradually bringing that, but all I know is when she's around me, that's the way she acts. I don't know if she's still parking on the handicap space when I'm not around.
Oh, she
But
probably.
yeah. So that's one of my big pet peeves, is the fact that some people do have these license plates, but they're not unable. They're able-bodied, and it just drives you crazy to see it.
Well, I know, like here in Oklahoma, that plate alone isn't enough. You still have to go to a doctor and actually get a placard. So those people would be getting in trouble here. So, and I have one. I rarely use it, but I do have one. There are days, so it's usually if I'm taking somebody else to the store that has an ambulatory issue, or if there's like a day that I have to have my cane, I will rarely use a space. My kids get mad at me sometimes. They're like, "Why don't you just park here? You've got the placard." I'm like, "Because I can walk today and I need some steps, so you can do it
No,
too."
you do have an ambulatory issue. When my dad was alive, and I went down for a month last year to keep him company while my mom was in Puerto Rico. He had a placard. He had no car, but the placard made it easier for his friends when they took him to the VA, when they took him to the hospital or whatever, to park in the handicap space so that my dad could get help to go inside, because my dad did have ambulatory issues by this point. And when I was staying with him, whenever we went somewhere, I would use the placard in mom's car to take him wherever he needed to go, and I would park there. I would take him inside, and then I would go back out and park somewhere else. So I made it easier for him to, get out, and then I would go put the car in another space, and then, you know, when he was done, with his doctor's visit or whatever, I would go get the car, and then I would help him inside and everything. And he was like, "I do have the placard." I said, "I know that, but I just feel bad because I can walk." He says, "Yes, but I'm the one that can't." It's like, okay, point taken. So, but still I would feel really weird even with the placard, even knowing that I was helping dad, that I didn't belong in that parking space. So I tried to avoid it as much as I could. And there were days when dad was like fine ambulatory wise, and he would say, "Yeah, we can park somewhere else. I don't need the placard," and he would keep it in the glove compartment. So, sometimes he had his good days, sometimes he had his bad days. And on the bad days, I would take the placard out, and that way, it was more convenient for him. And that's handy. The placard is far more handy than the license plate, because if you're helping somebody with ambulatory problems, if they have the placard, then, they don't have to worry about license plates or anything like that. So I prefer the placard, honestly, to license plates.
Yeah. So speaking of, parking lots, things like that, I do have some driving related pet peeves. Turn signals exist for a reason, you heathens.
As a friend of mine said, the designer, on on uh, on X, yeah, I have a lot of respect for those that still have the turn light on but are not turning, because at least they know where it is.
Yeah.
At least they've used it.
You've reached the senior moment in your life where you forgot the turn signals on, but at least you used it, so achievement unlocked.
Yes, I'll give you some respect for actually using it. You're not turning, but you used it, so yay.
And yeah, yes, I realize I am older, but the left lane is not for warp speed, it's for passing.
Oh man, there've been some yeah. Yeah. I've okay, not gonna get into it.
So, well, this is another thing that is kind of starting to slowly get into our lexicon, though, because the more congested our highways get and the more lanes they put on, they're now putting more and more exits to where, if you're going a certain way, you can actually take the left side of the road to get where you're going, which is kind of denoting, well, everybody's like, well, if I've got an exit like 5 miles from now in the left lane, I might as well just stay in the left lane. That would be like saying if you're in an exit in 5 miles in the right lane, you might as well just stay in the right lane if there's not a bunch of traffic, because everybody knows you're not going to do that. But still, it's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, these are the littler things that tick me off, but they're kind of a cumulative thing, because, turn signals are important. Also, please, if you're going to take the time to hook up a trailer to your vehicle, make sure the fucking lights work.
Oh yeah.
I got so tired of that when I was running patrol, because I was like, dude, it probably took you 10, 15 minutes to hook this thing up. You couldn't make sure the wiring was good, because now I have to give you a ticket. I don't want to give you a ticket. I have to give you a ticket because you are being unsafe on the roads.
Yeah, it's a hazard.
And they would get mad at me, and I'm like, I didn't do it. Now, there are certain things. Another pet peeve of mine, and kind of in the same vein, is seatbelts. If you are over the age of 18 and you don't want to wear a seatbelt, no one should legally be able to make you. If you have children in the car and you don't make sure they have seatbelts on, then you deserve to have the book thrown at you, and you should probably be put under the jail, because that's just retardation. But I don't like the nanny state in any forms. And what killed me for a while is, even after when I was doing private security work, half the time I was in a uniform, so I was running around all over the place without my seatbelt on because I had a gun belt on. And then for several years afterwards, out of habit, especially if I was exhausted, I would just get in the car and start driving. The day after we found out my father-in-law died, I get pulled over leaving work because they were like, "You've got time, just go take it." So I just hopped in the car, wasn't even thinking about it. I'm like, dude, I'm exhausted. I haven't slept in 2 days. My father-in-law just died, and I just wasn't thinking about putting my seatbelt on. Here's your $25 ticket. Well, fuck you too, buddy.
Yep. I've dealt with that. I've dealt with that. My future, well, my husband's grandmother, when she passed away, we were engaged at the time. He gets a call from his dad, and she is, at the time, he was in Houston, and his grandmother lived in Angleton. So, dad says there's not a lot of time left. And so he gets in the car, he's racing down there, and he gets pulled over, given a ticket. He explains the situation. The guy doesn't care. And the guy tells him, I don't know if this is true or not. Well, unfortunately, the grandmother passed away that day. And after the memorial and everything was done, the obituary was in the paper. He brings the obituary so that he can get exempt from the fine, and just says, yeah, it doesn't matter. And they made him pay the fine anyway. And I'm like, wow. That was the first time I have heard of speed traps, and that town was certainly one of them. So, and it's not the only one in Texas, I will say that. But that was kind of like a big wake up call for me. But the state is not under any obligation to feel sorry for you for any losses that you may incur in your life. I mean, if you break the law, you break the law. I get that. I just think that a little humanity goes a long way. But that's just me. Maybe half the world thinks the same way, though. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, there were times when I was like, you know what, this didn't happen. I'm not even going to worry about it. So, and it was just one of those things where I'm like, dude, I'm dealing with all kinds of crap, and the thing about it is, this was an Oklahoma County ticket. Their seatbelt tickets aren't expensive, but they're a pain in the ass because you don't have any way to pay it over the phone. They don't let you pay it by mail. You actually have to go in and pay it in person. There's nowhere to park down there, so I was already burning time off to be able, because I just couldn't concentrate on work. And then I get to go home and tell the now ex-wife, "Oh, I got a ticket for not putting my seatbelt on." For those of you who know my ex-wife, you can imagine how that conversation went. Yeah, that was not fun either. Why did you put your damn seatbelt on? Shut up. Anyway, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, just little bitty pet peeves. I love how Jeff is like, first of all, cars have GPS and they cannot tell when I'm in New Hampshire and I actually don't have to put a seatbelt on. So what the hell's up with that? And his other comment was, I will let you know, Rick, that spaceships don't have turn signals. And then I love Amish. I refuse to provide intel to the enemy, which is probably why.
Yeah, you know what a friend of mine does? This is in Puerto Rico, and where, honest to God, I would wear a seatbelt even if I weren't in a car, because that place is so nuts. But he actually clicks the seatbelt and then sits down in the car.
Yeah, I've done that before. And then I got a car where it was like this automatic thing where you have to buckle the bottom part and then the rest of it comes over the top of you. So I really couldn't get around it. So then I kind of got in the habit of wearing it. And then I was like, and then I kind of broke the habit again because I was usually wearing a gun belt. And I don't know. Now I put it on.
I was not aware that New Hampshire didn't have the seatbelt law. I thought it was national.
I didn't know that either, but
I learned something new today. Pretty cool.
Yeah. One of the most liberal states in the country that does, besides California, it still doesn't have seatbelt laws. That's a little weird.
I think there's still hope if we adhere to, live free or die.
Right?
Maybe.
Right? Maybe. I guess we'll find out. All right. So, got any more? We're down to about 10 minutes, it looks like.
Gosh. I mean, I had a bunch that I completely spaced out.
No, not. Okay, I mean, I have a few more. So another one, going back to meetings. So we've already talked about, don't reply all. Why are we having meetings that could have been handled via email? If they make you go into a meeting, silence your damn phone, please. I hate that.
That's a big one.
I hate
Yeah.
that.
I don't,
Especially if I'm the one having to run the meeting, because I've had to do that before, and people's phones are just like ding, 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 and I'm like, dude, turn your fucking phone off. Stop it.
now I was in church, and normally, we all have our ringers off, whatever. We don't turn off our phones, but we have the ringer off. And this was one Sunday when there was a possibility of the tornadoes. Yeah, I still went to church. I mean, yeah, we all still showed up because we're like, yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do, right? So we go, and we're in the middle of the sermon, and everything. All of a sudden, you hear almost every single phone go off because the emergency system, you can't shut that off. I mean, the sound, you can't shut it off. So it just goes off. I thought you could, and in my old phone you could, but not my new phone.
Nice.
So I guess the newer phones are like, yeah, we can't shut that off. So it's like 15, 20 phones all go off at the same time, and the priest is up there just waiting, and finally he says, "Okay, somebody tell me what's going on." So one of the deacons got the phone out, and he explained the emergency. The broadcasting system was talking about how a tornado has been sighted north of Sulphur Springs. And God bless our priest. He says, it's still 40 miles away. We still got time.
Nice.
We all just sat there. Okay, I guess we're finishing.
Yeah, Amish just talked about that before because he lives in a huge county, and when they first started doing those emergency notifications, he'd be getting stuff that was like hundreds of miles away. He's like, "Can we fix this, please?"
Yeah,
Please?
but that's the thing. I have shut off the emergency system on my older phones, but my new phone, I can't seem
Yeah, no,
to.
you
It won't let me.
on the new ones you can't do that. Kind of like, and this is going back to that, continuity pet peeve. Another one is when TV shows strive so much for realism, so they like figure out how, if you take your battery out of your phone, they can't track you. Guess what? Now they've made it to where you can't take your battery out of your
Better
phone.
route. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, you overzealous researching mofos, for making the rest of our lives harder. Asshole.
Yeah, that's a good one. But when it comes to the realism in TV, I cannot stand the crime scene investigation or whatever, CSI. I could never, or NCIS. I love the show NCIS. I always thought it was fun to watch and everything. But having worked in a lab and knowing how long
it takes forever,
how long these tests actually take, it drove me nuts. I could not stand it, and that went just a little too far for my willful suspension of disbelief. Okay, I just could not cover it because I'm like, y'all can research this, even if you just wanted it to be part of the drama. You can stretch it out. Yes, you can. You can put something else, while we're waiting for that. But no, this test does not take 3 hours. It literally takes 3 weeks. And this other test, oh my God, what? I'm lucky to get toxicology back in a month and a half. What are you talking about?
At least in some of the later procedurals, they were like, "Can you put a rush on this for me?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." Even though that doesn't really happen either. But
No.
yeah, so at least they tried to explain why some of the stuff came back quickly. All right, so I've got at least one more. And this one's a big one. If you're gonna have an argument in the middle of a public place on your phone, put the bitch on speaker so I can figure out who I'm rooting for. I don't want half the conversation. If you're balls out enough to have an argument in the middle of a grocery store, in the middle of a mall with somebody on a phone, then put it on speaker so I can figure out which one of you I'm going to be rooting for over in the corner while I pay attention to all your drama.
And this goes to another pet peeve. If drama breaks out and you guys are videotaping or, putting the camcorder on or the camera or whatever, put it in landscape mode. Don't put it in portrait mode. Landscape.
You need to mostly take that shit up with Brad, dude, because when I produce for them on Thursday night, I'm like, can we decide if we're doing 90 or 2 hours? Because lately you guys are like right in the middle, and I never know what I'm doing.
I think I know it's really bad with me and Brad. I get it. And we have, MOR right after our show. So I tried to give him a warning. Hey, you now have just this, because he does have a long spiel. So
that honestly doesn't bother me as much because we have two different people controlling the feeds on those. So that one can still start on time. When I start having issues like last night, because, I'm expecting 90 minutes and Jen and I are supposed to be on, and then my computer started being dumb. So I was trying to find time to reset my internet and everything else to set it up. And then the next thing I know is next thing I know, I'm like, okay, so it's 90 minutes. Now we're at 95 minutes. Now we're at 100 minutes. And I'm finally just like, okay, dude, we're going to have to wrap soon because I still have to get things done with Jen and my internet's being stupid. So I'm going to have to reset. But yeah, dude, you really don't need to be throwing stones about that one because there's a certain show of yours that doesn't air very often. And it's only supposed to happen once a month. Sir.
Okay, it just got real. No, sometimes I get why some shows go over and everything. And I try really hard not to go over. I promise.
No, I know. And like I said, that doesn't really bother me as much because on those nights, there's other people controlling the feed. So even if you guys are running over for a minute or so, and I've told Jeff that before, because sometimes Corin kind of goes off on a tangent for the last couple of minutes. I'm like, dude, you have control of your own feed. Start yours at exactly on time because it'll hold over for a minute and then we'll shut down and everything will be fine. So that doesn't bother me as much. What bothers me is when I'm the one controlling both feeds and I never know what time frame we're working with because it's never the same. Yeah.
Well, I guess on that note,
where can folks find you? Because we better the programming director is already yelling at us that we better stop on time. So,
you can find me at Aggie Rican and at Aggie the Barkeep. Those are over on X. You can find me 8:30 p.m. Eastern Tuesday nights doing the Cocktail Lounge with the aforementioned ever suave Brad Slager. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Friday nights. Doing He Said, She Said with the awesome you. The second Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m., the guys get together for Toxic Masculinity. That includes you, and I bring the drink of the month. And Jeff and I are getting ready to do our Spirited Books podcast first Monday of every month, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Yes, no, seriously, this Monday. Monday. Hey, we did a makeup show 2 Saturdays ago.
I'll believe it when it goes live. I'm just teasing. Really
oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I know that things were bad this summer for Spirited Books, but and it couldn't be helped. What with, me losing my dad and having to help mom for a while and everything, and then Jeff getting seriously sick.
Jeff didn't get seriously sick. Jeff tried to die on us, bastard.
Yeah, that was. Don't ever do that again, Jeff. I'm telling you right now, don't do that again. I will come up there and beat your ass if you do that again.
You might want to check your notes there, Skippy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, where can we find you?
On that note, you can find me tomorrow night pushing buttons for the Front Porch Forensics crew. You can find me Sunday night push, and that's at 8 p.m. Eastern, assuming they're going to be back tomorrow night. You can find me pushing buttons and now officially co-hosting with Corin Nimick on Corin's Reading Room at 7 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Monday night back doing America Off the Rails, 10 p.m. Eastern as Sean's lead-in act. Unless he doesn't have his show, because that's kind of the only reason I do that one, is to try to build momentum for him, since I usually wind up having to do it on every other Wednesday anyway. And I had to do a makeup this past week because she wasn't in. So if he's got a show, then I will do an opening act for him. If he doesn't, then I may take Monday off completely. Then again, I've already decided I may or may not do a special holiday show on Monday too. I haven't decided yet because I didn't do one on Tuesday. So I don't know, just TBD. Tuesday night back with Manorama, I think, because every time I turn around, he's saying something else. So I think we're doing a show Tuesday, and if we are, I'll be there. Wednesday night, usual stuff. So full night over this full day and full night. Tuesday through Friday, Rick Robinson's show starting at 10 a.m. Eastern as well. And then Jen and Rick, 10 p.m. Eastern. And back around here doing this thing with you next Friday. And other than that, you can find me as a contributor on misfitspolitics.com, twitchy.com, theloftusparty.com, and I also produce the Loftus Party podcast, which drops on Tuesdays. Please feel free to follow along with me at RadioX73 and the station at KLRN Radio. I think that's it. And if it's not, I've said too much as it is. Bye, everybody. Uh-oh. That's not the right button, though. Well, you see what happened was. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Another pet peeve when my producer pushes the wrong damn button. Oh, wait, that's me.
That's you.